Through the ups and downs, we stand tall in this journey of growth. Day by day, through the ups and downs, we stand tall in this journey
Hi.
of growth.
Hello.
Day by
I was,
day.
I was waiting for you to talk.
Welcome.
Welcome to the.
Okay, what we're talking about?
I think we said the role of friendship in personal
The
growth,
role of
being as that
friendship in
is what
personal
this
growth.
all started over.
It started, and then I thought it was a good topic because I could bring in my caveat from our last recording about how I have realised I don't listen.
Oh, that's correct. Yes. Oh, but I didn't. But then I don't notice. That's correct. You don't. No, but I don't notice. The thing is, I don't notice because what you picked up on last time, I had literally didn't notice. So then, am I not listening to not notice that you didn't listen?
Well, I'm going to actively listen to you right now, and that you didn't notice I don't listen. Well, what happened was I listened back, and I think what's frustrated me actually is what are we recording now? Like maybe episode 15 or
Yeah, I
something.
think so. I was
But we've
16. Yeah,
only
I'm not sure.
published maybe like 8, and
Mm.
so we've got about 8 podcasts to go before I actually start listening to you, which is really frustrating.
Yeah, my presence isn't there enough for you to listen to me, or is
Well,
it?
no. So what happened was last time, because maybe anyone who listened last time would have picked up on it. We were talking about social constructs, and you started in quite possibly the first 30 seconds of the podcast saying, but what if social constructs are causing limiting beliefs? And I just started talking, and what I was doing, I think, was I was projecting because I was either feeling something or I decided that you were feeling something, and I just talked at you as if your view was what I thought it was without listening to what your view actually was. And so we talked for 45 minutes, and then suddenly this thought came to me, which was really profound and really amazing, which was like, but what if it's causing limiting beliefs? And I was like, I
Eureka!
said it. and, and you went, yeah. And we talked about for a little while about what if it's limiting beliefs. And then I listened back and thought, bloody hell, you said that right at the beginning, and I just did not listen. So I'm going to work on my list, which is a worry for someone whose job it is to listen.
Yeah, but maybe in that context, because we're talking like it's not. I know there is a need to listen, but not in the active way that you'd possibly need to listen with clients. It's not the same environment, is it?
No, I think there is a need to listen, but I just noticed myself doing it then as well. I've got so many thoughts going on in my head
So many
all the
tabs
time at the same
open.
time that I think I'm going through my thoughts whilst kind of letting you speak, but all my thoughts are going that it doesn't. But also when I'm working with clients, I write everything down, and sometimes clients bring me printouts, so they've written. Like I had a client the other day. She's at home. She's written her whole list of stuff.
Mm.
Ordinarily, she would talk through that list in the session. I would write it down as she's saying it, but she obviously didn't want me to do that, so she like photocopied it, gave me the list. And I've had this happen before, and then I've actually had a client say to me, you don't need to write it down because here it is. And they probably want me like making eye contact with them.
Is it maybe like when people do when you're talking to a friend and they're on their phone?
Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
but because I realise that's maybe what they're feeling, but
Mm.
I
Yeah, that's what
realise
I
that
mean.
I need to write it down to process it, to be able to to
But could that be
process it,
to
to
do
hear
with your the what's it called,
my
your
slow
that's
processing.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's not that's not what it's
possibly.
called, is it?
Well, yeah, maybe that's
This
why
is your label.
they said that I have a monotropic cognitive
That's it.
style,
I can't remember
and
the
it
name.
may take
Yeah.
longer to process things than other people, and maybe that is how that's
Yeah.
determined, or maybe how it presents. Maybe I do need to write stuff down to be able to process it, and so I sometimes have to say to these clients now who do that, actually, I write it down so I can process it, and that's what enables me to then reflect it back or
Mm.
construct like solutions or what whatever needs to
So,
happen.
but I know you're saying that that's how you need to do it, but do you think that's something that that a lot of people need to do to Do you think that's not just something possibly? Do you think that's a good practice to have for people to write things down like that to then be able to process it?
I don't imagine so, and I don't suppose it would actually be. It would be a bit uncomfortable, wouldn't it, in normal conversations to be writing down with someone speaking everything they say. So probably not. But
No, but in that kind of environment, like if you're learning, if you're, um, yeah, if you're learning and if you're talking to somebody where you need to remember things in
that
that kind of environment, like with clients, do you think
that's my
it's,
experience of things. And I've also
mm,
noticed recording things and then listening to it back. I had another
yeah,
experience where um, someone was asking me about an interaction I'd had with someone else, and my memory of it and my experience of it in the moment was that that other person had been quite uh, not unresponsive, but uninterested, indifferent to the proposal that I was suggesting. And so my response had been fairly kind of, we'll take it or leave it. And then I was trying to describe this to a mutual friend, and I said, they were just a bit like uninterested. And I scrolled back in the messages to try and find it to show them. And when I reread it months later, from a kind of almost an outsider perspective, because I wasn't any longer in the situation, their responses were not how I had read them at all. And so I think processing time is really good, whether it's through recorded or just getting a message and then going back to it at a later date. But writing down every conversation is probably a bit complicated and
so
difficult.
then in the context of like friendship and things like that, then how do you think you, like, do you think you do that a lot then, not listen? Because I did honestly didn't notice, but do you think that you,
Well, how you do one thing is how you do anything, isn't it? Isn't that what's that phrase?
so
How
basically,
you do anything is how you do everything. So quite possibly, yep.
or is it just the delay? Is it just the delayed thinking
Um,
or delayed processing, not thinking, delayed processing?
well, what's also ridiculous as well is that you'd had this idea that was really valuable, and it took me 45 minutes to get to the same point.
Yeah, but then I didn't even realise 45 minutes later that you're at the same point that I mentioned at the start. So what does that say about my memory?
Oh, maybe it's the age.
Wow, this is it, isn't it?
But I don't.
But
eh, Go on.
then do you find, so I find, so Sean, my daughter told me something the other week. You can't tell anyone. You can't tell anyone, not even Pete. And I was like, right, okay. And for me, and I've always been like this, if somebody tells me something really important that I'm not allowed to tell anyone, I literally forget. And I've done this
Oh,
so many times because, and then the next day I was like, right, what did she say? I'm not allowed to, and it was quite an important thing. And I was like, I was like, "God, what was it I wasn't supposed to say?" And I was like, "Oh, that's good. At least I can't remember." And then it came to me later on in the day. But when somebody tells me something that I'm not, so I'm just wondering if I'm like locking things. This I've got a secret compartment in my brain with lots of people's secrets in that one day.
yeah. Well, that's good though, isn't it?
Is it? I'm the holder of secrets.
Well, unless it was something that she needed you to be
No, it
able to
wasn't anything
engage
to
with.
do with. No, it wasn't that. It wasn't anything like that. But yeah, yeah. So I think So maybe, yeah. Is there parts of you that you don't remember because you're not supposed to, or delayed? I don't know. I need to look at this more in the mind.
Mm. I think
Mm.
that's great. It makes you dependable and trustworthy.
Well, to a degree, but when it's annoying you because you can't remember the secret that you were told the night before. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah,
So that's my thing. I'm going to try harder to listen, and that seems like quite a good lead in to the role of friendship in personal growth. I
mm,
I am growing through this friendship and these conversations, um, but it's the listening back to them actually, because I wouldn't have
yeah,
known that if I hadn't listened back to it.
yeah. Maybe I need to pay more attention. I'm more listening for. Yeah, yeah. I think yeah.
So we have
Li-
I there is there's certainly growth on my part through these conversations, but friendship doesn't always have these conversations, does it?
No, some people aren't as deep, aren't they, in their friendships? I don't think. or they don't necessarily want to. They don't necessarily. I welcome feedback, but I'm not sure that everybody does, or
Mm.
that they don't want that level of depth.
Do you try and justify? So you welcome feedback, but if someone gave you feedback about something
Mm,
and you felt there was a reason for your behavior, do you want them
mm.
to understand? Do you feel misunderstood if they haven't grasped the reason for your behavior?
I'd say if somebody gave me feedback, I'd be like, well, absolutely.
So you welcome it, but you don't always.
But then is that subjective? You know, like we said before on things being subjective, like
Mm,
I could say something to you and you could be like, well, no, the reason I said that was because, and you've interpreted it as,
mm,
so is it subjective? If it's
yeah.
what about if it's good feedback, as in, you know, like when I send things to you sometimes, oh,
Mm,
thank you for that. That's really,
yeah.
would
So
you be like, oh no, no, I
I've
couldn't
already
possibly take that good feedback
no,
back.
take the good, but not the bad.
That's not what I meant. I meant it horribly.
It's really, you can only have that kind of situation in certain relationships, I think,
Yeah,
can't you?
yeah. Some
It,
people
it take,
just aren't open to it.
but it definitely takes a level of depth and honesty and the ability to be curious, I would say, as well. Um, do you think, like, instead of if you get feedback instead of kind of,
But do you think we think too deeply about it? Like, I think that I analyze different friendships without a doubt
mm,
and their dynamics. 100% I do. And you know, I would even go as far as to say I've got notes and things like that. Might have a section in my Microsoft Notes
have you got a spreadsheet?
on certain behaviours. Not a spreadsheet, I haven't gone that far.
You could probably create one though. It's probably a good idea. You could have, I could imagine it. You could have like the friends at the top, and then qualities, and
Rating
like
for different, yeah,
if you listed all of your needs down the left-hand side of the
yeah.
spreadsheet, your overall needs
Well, I
in
did do
life.
that. I did do a thing on how to evaluate friendships on a little while ago.
Yeah, but
Um,
I'm sorry, I'm not listening again because I've got this created in my
yeah, but I've got an
spreadsheet.
idea. Why don't you create?
If you tick, you could then tick which friends meet what needs and make sure
Mm,
that your circle of friendships is meeting all your needs. And then if you
yeah.
needed more met, you could bring in different people.
Can you recruit them? Do you reckon there's like a friendship site? Maybe we should an app. We can make an app.
This
Right,
is a great, this is a
I'm feeling I
genius
need a bit
business
more
idea.
love. Right, let's click on the love section. Who's open for a bit of love? Platonic love.
Yeah, isn't that good?
Mm.
But you did just say something that was relevant, and I've forgotten it. It's gone into my secrets of my
I
mind.
clearly don't remember.
Damn it! Oh, well, this has
Yeah.
started well, hasn't it?
So
Okay.
so what about the next bit? Is it how's our friendship challenged us both to step out of our comfort zones? Talking about us rather than other people.
Um,
Do you think it has? I think and me being friends with you changed my life. I'd go as far as to say I would. I think I've said this to you before
um,
because I remember when I hadn't seen you for ages, and I was like, I wonder where I'd be if I hadn't have met you.
mm,
And then you were all spiritual about it all and said that no, I believe that everyone, you know, if you're meant to meet, you're meant to meet. I don't know if you remember that conversation, but yeah.
it's true. I like that.
Mm.
Um, I oh yeah,
But
you've
that's
influenced my life.
but I'd say that meeting you and then you going on your, you know, the hypnotherapy side of it, and that then introduced me to and I suppose the first person that was kind of on an alternative spiritual level, not an alternative, just something different to what I'd
Mm,
grown up with, because it was all very strict, blah blah. There was no growth mindset there. It was all like, this is how your life will be. These are the
mm,
choices you make, and there was no openness to change, to growth. It was kind of like, well, it is what it is, kind of. That was how I was brought up. And then when my daughter's dad's, like, so her grandmother, she was very open to a lot of, and I learned, and she kind of, when I sort of was talking to her about it, I was like, oh, I didn't know about this. And, she was very much into angels and things like that, and
mm.
alternative ways of thinking. And it fascinated me. And then I met you, and she was very supportive when I started out doing the hypnotherapy years and years ago, because she 100% believed it, when not a lot of people did at the time. I don't think it wasn't very open. So I think in that way, if I hadn't have met you and I hadn't have met Barbara, then I wouldn't have perhaps been thinking that way. So that would have been a massive influence. And then pushing you out of your comfort zone is then getting to know yourself and understanding things, isn't it?
Yeah, but we met and I wasn't doing the things I'm doing now. And I think my that path for me was, I think, to some extent, like you a little bit, I know Barbara wasn't your family,
Mm,
but you were probably quite young when you met her. But my nan was fairly spiritual, maybe, is that the right word? And quite interested in alternative things. And
mm,
I remember my nan did yoga, and that was quite out there when she was doing yoga.
mm.
And my nan's sister, she was trained in reflexology, which was,
Oh, so you had quite a
super.
lot of outside or inside influence, should I
But I don't really remember.
say?
And my nan used to give my brother and I homeopathic remedies, and so there was and she was very much into natural. I think I've still got upstairs a Weleda deodorant with like a tiny little bit left in it, which is all very natural, that my nan
Yeah.
bought me when I first started using deodorant, because she wanted me to only use natural products. So
Ah,
she
yeah.
was quite,
And back then, that was quite,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but I wasn't like that. That isn't.
So what changed? What changed in you to make you?
Well, I'm trying to. Yeah, I don't. I had a friend who probably led me down that path, like you said that I led you down that path. She was very interested, but this was all. I don't know when she became interested. So I remember a friend going for some hypnotherapy, um, for something, and then I was interested. I don't really know. I had a friend in the next work I worked in after you, who started inviting me to various alternative lectures and things like that. But she must have recognized something in me to have invited me. So I really
Mm,
don't know what was the first. But having said that, I did find years later a book where I'd written some business ideas, and one of them was be a counselor, and that was um, way before I ever did my hypnotherapy training. So there was something, but I don't know
mm,
when it started or what it was. But it wasn't. I don't remember me being that way inclined when we worked together.
yeah. But then, yeah, I don't. Well, maybe it's just because that's all I remember. I remember sitting opposite you, and then eating lots, and then not
Yep.
you,
Well, I would have eaten lots as well.
always eating. Yeah.
I don't
Well,
remember having. I don't know what our conversations were like then.
probably. I just remember laughing a lot there. Really, I just think it was fun. Although it was a really high pressure job, it was. I think we used to just have to. I think we used to basically take the mickey out of people in the nicest possible way. I
Yeah,
know I did.
we did have a good time.
I do remember laughing a lot there, but then not towards the end. But yeah, it was an up and down, up and down.
Yeah. So What do you think now makes or has made our friendship growth orientated? Do you think that it's these conversations, or what do you think it's
Yeah,
been?
definitely. Well, I think for me, you're kind of in my realm. You're kind of a mentor figure for me, I think now. As in, if I was ever to question anything to do with sort of anything to do with the therapy side, or if I've got any, I'm unsure about things, I think I would ask you and I would take you as an authority. Well, I do
Lovely.
ask you, and I take and I take you as an authority. I do. I think it's important to, yeah. I
Yeah,
think that with your experience and your and everything that you bring to the table is definitely, I'd consider it to be an authority, an authority in a, not in a you must do this, but in
I might start playing to this authority.
but no, and I think it's yeah, and you've got a very balanced view on things. Like if I get irate about things, you'll be like, but like you'll probably bring me down a level.
Do you think I would? Um,
Yeah,
but
or reason for me. Like if I'm, you're a calming influence, I'd say.
do I share the opposite perspective?
Yeah.
Because I realised in the authentic relating training last night we were looking at
Oh yes.
different perspectives, and so we had to. What did we first have to do? Basically, we had to view different perspectives, and I realised that I'm really good at at seeing two perspectives
Mm.
when I don't have a perspective, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay, so you'll
So
give
if
an
I'm not
outside point
bothered,
of view without putting yourself in.
no, if I'm indifferent to something, I'm really
Oh,
like, if someone says something negative about something, I'm like, but can't you see? And I can give like the other perspective really
mm.
easily and try and like make everything okay. But then if it's me and I've got a perspective and I hear someone else with an alternate perspective, I just can't fathom that they can have an alternate perspective.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I always agree with you when you do, like if you say
Mm,
things about, because that's not where I'm at in that headspace sometimes. But I would then probably think back on it and then just be like, oh yeah, like when I've perhaps calmed down on a situation,
yeah,
particularly if it's highly emotional.
I don't think that's unique to me. I think that
Oh, I
you're as
do,
good as
because
that. And
no, but then if I was to say it to anyone else, they'd be like, yeah, rah, rah, rah," somebody that's not got that other. So if I was to
uh,
talk to other friends, they'd be automatically on my side. Because you remember I said to you the other day about things that you put into ChatGPT, and I was like, but it
yeah,
always validates me, and I don't necessarily think that's right.
yeah, is that people pleasing? Other people pleasing,
Yeah.
afraid of being honest?
Uh, I don't think they see that perspective because they're thinking of it from my point. I don't think this is what I mean. I don't think they think that deeply about it.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't necessarily think it's people pleasing. I just don't think that they have a balanced perspective on things and they would automatically think like I do in the moment.
yeah. Okay.
But I could be
Um,
wrong.
yeah, I don't think that. I think that there's equality in our relationship, because I think you bring as much to the table as I bring. You've definitely got far more experience in certain things and far more able at a lot of things than I am. So, and I learn from you.
Probably not the good things.
I do. I learn how to
uh,
make documents and spreadsheets, schedule my life even more than it's already scheduled.
how to manage a reactive dog. Because I tell you, that's
Yeah.
another perspective that you gave when we were talking about why I get annoyed with people that let their dogs, and you're like, and then you sort of took that down and said, oh, but is it fear based? And I was like, ah, yes, it is. All anger is fear based. Yeah,
Mm,
I you know, because I've been working on that in the background as well, and it's kind of like, oh, when I'm making some content and some bits for reactive dog owners and looking at all of the wording and things like that people are using, and it is all
do
kind of
you
fear
think?
based.
Do you think you flip into fear when when you? So I know that there's the anger with Frank and people
Not
not
with Frank, he
no
doesn't make
no
me
no
angry.
no
Poor Frank.
poor Frank. No,
I mean
not
it. His
not
tail's wagging.
even Frank situations.
Yeah.
But what about when you get angry? So I've been thinking about
I
this
don't get
recently.
angry.
Sometimes you can get angry. You can be as cutting and
Venomous.
harsh, yeah, as I can, I think,
Oh yeah, 100%.
and short-tempered. Not
Yes.
short-tempered, that's the
Oh
wrong
yeah,
word,
all of that. Yes, it's
but
not the wrong
short
word.
with other people. Like, do
Yeah.
you think that because I've just had this realization in the past week that I think I might flip into that. That might be my um, anxiety response. I might go into fight rather
Mm.
than freeze or flight. Do you think it's just bringing that up? Do you think that you do the same, or have you ever thought about this?
No, I have, but I think when I've been faced with a really traumatic situation, I'm 100%. I fawn, I don't, but when it comes to protecting, and I know I've used this word quite a lot because I remember saying and thinking, oh, God, said that a bit too much. Think of something else. Think of another word. Oh, thesaurus. But yeah, I definitely, when it comes to my dog or my daughter, I would, yeah, I'd go to prison.
But
So
what
there's that.
about?
That's a fear response, but I'm not necessarily. I think I control it more now. Years ago, yeah, 100%.
I'm really interested in this because I had an experience in the spa the other day where, I mean, it's all a bit of a long, boring story, but basically, the woman kind of was resistant to telling me what I could have to eat and drink. She was just
Why were
like,
they
"Well, what do
telling
you want?"
you? What do you mean? Was this in a? I'm thinking of your gym. This is not in.
Well,
Or was
it's the
this an actual?
spa in the gym, yeah. I went there for a rare special day out with my best
Oh,
friend,
I
is
see.
what I said in my complaint email,
Mm.
which is true
Oh,
actually. It was like,
yeah.
but um, they don't have menus and they don't have the drinks written up anywhere, so you can't see what they got in terms of like different coffees and stuff, you know.
Mm.
And there's loads of these different coffees and things these days. You know,
Yeah.
you can get a million different types, and the foods were confusing because I wanted it without dairy, and she was telling me that it had mayonnaise, and I was like, but that's not got dairy in it, and you know,
Mm.
it was all very complicated. But basically, she took a disliking to me, is how I feel, and she she was just making it complicated, and I was getting a bit overwhelmed. Basically, I couldn't process it. It's the processing again. I
Yeah.
couldn't, like, I'm not stupid, but I couldn't work out really what I was getting and what I could have and how it all worked. And she was being rude. And then I was saying what drinks because I wanted something like, you go to Starbucks and you get all the different with
Mm.
the cream and the this and the that and the syrup and the whatever. And I wanted something a bit different and a bit special. And but I didn't know, like, I didn't really know what they had. And
Mm.
she just went, "What do you want?" And I was like, "Well, I don't. What do you have?"
That's not the experience you were after. Do you think that
Yeah.
was because your expectations and the experience, or
No, it's because I would just
she
need.
was
I couldn't
rude?
process what they
She's just an
had.
arsehole.
Yeah, I couldn't process. What I realised reflecting on it, and because I was with my friend and she and I was getting, um, well, some might say aggressive, like verbally, in that I was just being very short with the woman, and I think my friend was uncomfortable with my behaviour. It wasn't wasn't violent in the least, but I was.
You know, throwing
She
cups
she
around.
kind of said when she went, well, what do you want? And I said, what I want is a menu that I can look at and work out what I want, and
Mm.
like take the time to process what's there and respond with what I'd quite like. But you don't. And I was like, but you don't have that, so I can't do that. So what I really needed was a really nice person who would say, well,
Mm.
you could have this and we've got that, and then we could add this, or you could have that, and she didn't. So we get into this, like, her
Yeah.
refusing to talk to me and me being like, just give me a menu. Um, but I realized that the people with me in those situations can feel uncomfortable because it seems like I'm causing a fuss. They're like, why don't you just tell her what you want? But what's going on inside of me is like overwhelm because I can't I can't process it. I can't think. I can't, and I nearly cried. But if you'd have,
Really?
like, inside, I wanted to cry. But if you'd have heard me, it would have sounded like I was just being angry and
Mm.
volatile. But I think that's that what was probably going on inside of me was like, well, I say anxiety, but like overwhelm and fear and anxiety all coming from the overwhelm.
Mm.
Um, and I'd never really thought about it as an anxiety response,
Yeah.
but it's
So
that
then
fear
what would
thing
you do?
again,
What
isn't
could
it?
you do? Yeah, but what could you do differently though in that situation? It's not really anything a menu would have solved that.
I mean, you would have solved it. I could have said, I'm
So
feeling
what would
really
you
overwhelmed. I have slow processing.
but then you take that a
No,
different way. If I was the server, I'd be like, oh, she's slow.
I could have said, I'm feeling really overwhelmed with this. I kind of need it listing out, and you don't have it listing out. Is there a way you can just tell me? I mean, maybe she has problems as well, and she didn't really
Maybe
know what
she's
they
fed
had.
up with people asking for a menu because she thinks there
Funnily
should be a
enough, it was her
menu.
last day actually at the job.
There you
Um,
go.
but
So
anyway,
do you think then you should consider that other people have things going on and that's perhaps why they're reacting to you as well? I don't. That's
well, I
not me.
did. I kept saying this to my friend. I kept saying, um, I don't know. I say my friend Philippa. She's Philippa. I kept saying to Philippa, um, uh, maybe she's got, maybe she's fed up. Maybe she's leaving because she hates it. And like I
Trying to
was
make excuses.
trying. I was like justifying. I wasn't.
Like
Yeah,
the
I
angry
was.
waiter when we went out for lunch. The
Yeah, I think I said then as well, didn't I? He's probably having
No,
a
but
bad day.
yeah, and you didn't see, that's why that you didn't seem to be bothered. Whereas I was a bit like, oh, I brought my friends to this restaurant and then saying it's nice and then we just got a really rude, angry waiter.
That's
But
interesting,
you
isn't
didn't
it?
seem to
Because
be
I
bothered.
did. No, I found it. I was
No.
perfectly content
Mm.
because I didn't feel it was a personal attack. Whereas this woman, it was like she was. It was like she was personally attacking me. It was like I
Yeah.
was going, I can't deal with this. I can't process it. I don't know what I can have. I'm really overwhelmed. And she was like, yeah, I'm going to make you even more overwhelmed. What do you want?
But then do you think like, so we would then, if you saw somebody in that kind of situation, you'd maybe, like from her point of view, you would then perhaps think that, see a different view and probably be like, oh, this person needs help. Whereas other people just don't. They don't think like that. They
Um,
don't communicate well.
honestly, I was probably like that when I worked in shops and things when I
Yeah,
was
that's what I
growing
mean.
up.
Because you wouldn't have known, would
I
you?
wouldn't have known.
No.
Um,
You just be
but
like, oh, all right, we haven't got a menu, so what do you want?
yeah, but
Told you.
what's interesting is I came to this conclusion of the anxiety response the other day because talking. So Philip, Philippa and I, and you and I have these kind of conversations, like these deep explorative
Mm,
um, decoding of our
yeah.
of our personalities and characteristics. And Philip has spoken a lot about her fight or flight response, which led me. That's where I suddenly put two and two together. And then you've just said about about the fear and the
Mm.
anger, which is
It wasn't until
again
you pointed it out
solidified.
to me, to be fair, like saying about the fear. But then so here's an example for me. Yesterday I'm walking my dog on the beach, he's on the lead. Now, he luckily found a stick, so he's not bothered about other dogs. But there's this woman, and I've seen her on more than one occasion, and she's got a dog off lead, and she's got no recall. And it just comes, and I have to say, even though he isn't not friendly, but it generally gets people to get their dogs quicker. And then yesterday, yet again, I'm on the beat. I'm keeping a distance. I didn't go down there at a specific time. I completely forgot, to be quite honest, what time it was, because I'd normally down there a lot earlier. And a dog's come up, and I was just like, "Oh, here we go, same shit, different day," like
Mm.
that. And I'm like, and you just like, she's like, "Oh, come here," and I'm like, "Oh," and I was like, "I tell you what," I said, "I'll let him off and see how that works out." He's about 5 times the size of her stupid little dog. Do you know what I mean? Because in the end, I'm just like, oh, but then is that because I'm just like, I don't care now. You're an idiot. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So
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 I'm
now
not.
you're going into that
I
same
was
space
fairly.
that
I was
I was.
having a
Yeah.
lovely time. I was having a lovely morning, and Frank, he was being a good boy. He just had a little paddle, and you know, I'd walked Sean down to the station. It was a nice morning, and then she comes and ruins it. A stupid dog.
But that's your anxiety
And I
then, and
lack, yeah.
your fear.
Well, no, because it winds, yeah, because it winds us both up. Like people go on about, oh, a nice relaxing walk. It isn't if you've got a reactive dog and off-lead dogs come up to you, which is, yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't. So that is, yeah, it ruins your walk.
And what they don't realize, because some people get angry with people with reactive dogs because they say, well, those dogs shouldn't be, like, you shouldn't
Oh,
get those
yeah.
dogs. But you're a
That's why they're
you're a martyr
reactive,
because
because people like that.
you rescued little Frank, Big Frank.
Mm. Yeah, but I think it's a lack of understanding from other people's part as well. I think,
Yeah.
but people, I don't know. Yeah, it just, yeah, that's something. But then that's fear based, like you said when you broke it down to me before. Because what would be when what is it? Socratical thinking, isn't it? Where but why? But why? Why does that? Why do you feel like that? And then you get down to that. Oh, yeah. Or
Yeah.
question, it's a critical question, isn't it? And then you get down to the because and you did this to me, and he said, oh, but then when you get down to it, it's the fear of if he does get another dog, and I don't have proof that it wasn't, an off-lead dog came up to him, then he could possibly be taken away and put to sleep, because that's what they do to dogs that, even though he's not aggressive,
He's bigger
So
and
it's
more
it's
able.
yeah, and the bigger wolf-looking dog gets the blame every time. So and that's the root of the fear, isn't it?
Yeah, that you'll lose him.
Yeah. So then that's why I get angry at stupid beagle woman down at the beach.
Yeah, even though she might not be a stupid woman, but
She
your
is.
anxiety and your fear
She's very stupid.
makes you really, which is how I felt about
Yeah.
David Lloyd, Spa Farnham, who didn't treat who didn't treat me
What was the name of
with
the
very
song?
much compassion or
And
kindness.
did they? And so you to deal with that. What did you do in the moment?
Um, well, I just quickly said, "Oh, I'll just have that, and I'll just have a latte, and could I have a bit of caramel syrup in it, please?" And then she didn't even bring me it with a caramel syrup, and then I had to go back and say, "I can't taste the syrup." And then she got the bottle and poured it in.
Begrudgingly.
Well, yeah, she begrudgingly gave it to me. It wasn't very nice. It did put a dampener on an otherwise what should have been a very lovely day. It was a
So
very
do we
lovely
think
day.
that she was having a bad day and possibly didn't understand your needs?
I my needs.
Special needs.
Um, no, I don't know really. She, there was some kind of she definitely didn't like. I would say she definitely didn't like me from the onset.
Yeah.
There must have been, maybe it's that mirror. So I noticed that one of our
Ah,
prompts is when a mirror, when friendships are a mirror,
I've
and
forgotten about.
well, I know we've just gone off on a tangent. It's fine. We haven't really. I think we're doing a good demonstration of growing through friendship.
Yeah.
How you can have
Chitter chattering.
like kind of deeper conversations that are exploring what's actually going on inside of you when you react in certain ways, um, and why you're reacting that way to grow through friendship. But we haven't really done much about. But the mirror thing, we that we have a reaction, don't we, to when we see a mirror in
Mm,
another person. And so maybe I was maybe there was some projection going on or something, and I was reminding her of someone in her life that she's got some kind of problem with, and perhaps I triggered her, or whatever. But that's kind of how I felt, because I didn't really do something wrong from the onset, but
yeah.
she was awkward from the onset. um
Yeah.
and so yeah, that's a nice hook into mirroring in friendships, I reckon, if we want to talk a little bit more factually about how friendships can incite growth.
Yeah. So in a growth aspect of it rather than.
Mm,
So how do you
yeah.
mean?
Well, I suppose there's projection, and there's another. Oh gosh, the golden shadow. Is that what they
Oh,
call it?
I don't know. I've not heard
Um,
of this. Talk to
so
me.
well, so we know about projection when we um, treat someone as if they are someone else or with different thoughts or feelings than they're actually saying to us because we view them as they remind us of someone else in our life or
Mm.
I'm sorry, I'm just googling this golden shadow to make sure
Yeah,
I've
I've not heard of
got
this
it.
golden shadow.
Okay, so the golden shadow, so the projection is the negative, right? When we're putting
Mm.
our negative stuff onto someone else and um, saying that, believing that they are this or they are that because we see the negatives of ourselves in them.
Mm.
The golden shadow is when we see the positive stuff of ourselves um, in someone else, and we can almost put somebody on a pedestal um, and be in awe of them.
That's
And
what
I
I am
think,
with you. That's what
um,
I do with you then.
well, maybe. So I think it can be really useful, the projection, when we project our negative stuff onto someone else, and the golden shadow, we project our positive stuff onto someone else, but exploring when we think someone else is something, when we make assumptions
Mm.
about someone else, exploring what that is actually within us. And so, yeah, the things that you like about me are
Mm.
probably the things you like about yourself. The things you dislike
Oh,
about me are
okay.
probably the things you dislike about yourself.
Yeah.
That's
Is that in
probably the,
every person then?
yeah. Well, I think that's really broad. I think
Mm.
that,
Is
it's
that
not,
just in friendship, or is this in
no,
general?
in any,
Oh, okay. Is that proven though?
well, it's
Like, how do you know?
definitely
How
a
do you know?
psychological theory.
Mm. So, do you recognise that in other people?
Um, in when like, do I look into myself if there's something
Yeah,
that I'm disliking or liking about
yeah,
somebody
yeah. Like,
else?
as in when you're yeah. Is there people that you think that of?
Yeah, I think it's beneficial. I think that I don't always take the time to be so. Um, I think it's through conversations like this that I'm able to
Mm.
do it. I don't think I necessarily take enough time to explore myself to really
Mm.
go into those depths. But I think it can be really useful in friendships. So, like, what is it you actually like about me, and is that within you as well, and can you pull it out and
Yeah.
utilize it?
Do you think you ever get to a point where you're just like I have no shadows left.
I don't know. Who knows? Is that
I've dealt with them all.
self-actualization?
Yeah, I've ascended.
I don't know.
Like, because
So,
you can be aware of them, but then they can still creep in, can't they? And be like I'm aware that I overreact with Frank, but I just think like, well, it's valid.
what about though if you do you like that part of yourself or not like that part of yourself, or how do you feel when you're with other people and so yeah, if you went somewhere and someone else overreacted to a situation, not necessarily a dog, but
Mm.
like um yeah, say we were in the situation that I was in at the spa and I overreacted to the woman not telling me what drinks they have, how would you feel?
I would probably chime in because I'd probably see that what was going on, and I'd be like, look, just write it down. We'll be sitting over there. Bring us it
You-
out.
you'd have my back.
Just give us a list. Yeah, yeah. I think, but then that's I think I'd just validate other people's anger, don't I? Because I'd just be on their side.
Do you ever feel uncomfortable with other people's behavior in public?
No, not really.
No, so maybe you.
Sometimes, no, because even like Pete with his road rage, sometimes I think it's funny.
So maybe this isn't a
I don't
shadow
get,
for
but
you.
maybe
It's not a
because
shadow.
I'm the person that's normally the one that's.
Is there anything about yourself you don't like?
I definitely know I overreact. I don't like it
No,
all the time.
but is there anything that you don't
I
like?
could quite easily take it too far. I wouldn't say it's one of my best traits, but then it can be in certain situations.
I think sometimes it can be.
Yeah.
You know,
They say
maybe.
dogs and their owners, don't they? So,
Yep.
but yeah, I don't
But
know. But yeah, there's definitely things that, yeah.
like, I think I can feel a bit uncomfortable if people make us. I was telling someone the other day about some people we know who can be quite volatile, maybe, and I can feel uncomfortable in their presence because I'm
Mm.
like, God, you're being really you're actually being really rude, and it's
Oh
really
no, but then
unnecessary.
I actually there's a good example when we went when Pete and I went out for dinner and there was some I don't know them that well, but they're just rude, and they were being very rude to the wait and stuff, and I had no qualms with telling them to shut up and stop being so rude.
But did you feel so? Where I was going
They
with
were
that
just
is
awful.
it makes
So
me
yeah,
think.
I no, it doesn't. It just makes me think that they're stupid, and I will stick up for. I suppose I'll decide who's right. I'll be the judge of that. God complex.
You'll take
I'll be the judge
responsibility,
of
really.
that.
So you
I don't
realise
need
it.
anyone to tell me
You
whether or not I'm
recognise
right. I
it.
know I'm right.
But what I was saying is I can feel really uncomfortable when these people are like that in public. And then sometimes I realise that I notice other people maybe feeling a little bit uncomfortable with what I'm saying in public. And then I think, oh, maybe that's me doing me projecting, like I'm feeling uncomfortable with them, but maybe it's actually I feel uncomfortable with myself when I'm like it. But moving away from the being rude in public and being volatile, is there anything else within yourself that you don't like about yourself that you might realize that is actually why you don't like other people? Or the opposite, is there anything you like about yourself which you haven't realized, or you like about someone else, which could be what you.
Mm. I don't really know. I can't think that I know that I'm reactive, right? I know that. I know that I'm quite emotional when it comes to, and I will overthink things like situations without a doubt. But then sometimes that can be for the better, can't it?
Are you sensitive?
Sometimes, yeah, definitely. But then I wouldn't show that. I wouldn't necessarily, people wouldn't necessarily know that. I don't know. Do you think that I am from an outside point of view?
I think you are. From my perspective, I think that you're sensitive in a kind of compassionate, empathetic way. Oh, are you?
See, I don't think
Like,
I know. I
no,
don't,
no. Well,
yeah.
no,
It,
like to people you care about,
mm,
like Sean, for example.
yeah, Sean.
Mm, yeah, but if you are sensitive but you don't show it, how do you feel when other people are sensitive?
I don't suppose. I don't know. I think it's me saying I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't.
Do you have time for it?
Not all the time. No, not if it's quite obvious what the solution is, and people don't necessarily want to do anything about it. Then perhaps no.
Mm. I think we can
No,
use
no, I
friendships
do
as a.
think there's a low level of empathy when it comes to certain situations. I'm like, well, there's a clear solution here, but you want to sit here moaning about it. Do you want to try the solution? Oh no, you just want to carry on with your life the way it is.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I don't really know where we're going with this one, but
No, I don't.
friendships can mirror. We'll stop talking about it, shall we?
Let's just forget
Projection,
that one.
golden shadow. When I've processed this in 3 hours,
You can come back.
I'll suddenly go,
Maybe we should do a break in between and
oh,
like
processing
And come
time.
back. Juliet's processing time.
But I think that the point is we were supposed to be recording a podcast on. I think I say that a lot as well. The point is that we were supposed to be
Listen here.
recording a podcast on how we grow through friendship, and we haven't really talked about how we've grown through our friendship. But I think
We
we've done
have. We
a good demonstration of
started
it.
off like...
We've not really. We've talked with consideration for what we're discussing, and we've been conscious and we've explored a little rather than gossiping.
And do you think that that all friendships should be this deep in reflecting, or do you think it's an age thing? Because you think when you were perhaps, and we met in our early 20s, didn't we? Maybe mid 20s. But
Well, you were mid-20s.
all right. But
It's only like 3 years
it's
between
just
us.
numbers.
4
But
years. It's not like you're 10 years older.
but do you think that when you're younger, that you don't have this level of depth, and then it's just something that you get when you're older because
No,
of your... No?
I don't think that, because I think that I've like worked with some people who are, and I've been in environments with people who are young, early 20s, and they've got this depth.
Mm. I don't think I did at that age
I didn't,
at all.
don't think.
Yeah, like my daughter, she does. She's like that around relationships, I think. She's quite...
Yeah.
Whereas I never would have had that level of understanding at all.
I do think it
Hence
takes
getting
certain
myself in
people.
pickles.
I think it's great to have, the authentic relating stuff is all about having these really honest kind of conversations where you try and talk about what you're really feeling. And I'm not sure how much we do that, talk about what we're really feeling, but I think we try and uncover our reasons for our behaviours. I do think I don't talk enough about how I'm feeling, and I've learned that. But I do also think that these kind of explorations I really appreciate these relationships. And there's a a quote, not a quote, but like a little conversation in one of the podcasts I was listening to, and he was talking about when you can push on through the difficulty of being honest in a friendship and really open with what you're feeling and what's going on for you, it can bring a great depth to a friendship.
And what and what if people don't accept, like, say you had other friends that you couldn't be this honest with, would you still value the friendship then?
Yeah, I think so. Um,
Yeah.
I, going back to my spreadsheet idea for friendships, isn't it the case that we've all got a number of needs and different people, and we shouldn't
Expect people to...
expect one person to meet all of those needs.
Mm.
And so, yeah, because maybe it's important to like, I am definitely not the friend anymore that you can call up and ask to go out spontaneously and stay out till like 1 or 2 in the morning and
Yeah.
get drunk with. I'm not going to do it. You need to book it with me about 3 months in advance so that I can get round the fact that I'm going to have to be having a late night. And then
Bank the sleep in advance.
yeah, and then I'd have to get over the fact that I was going to feel rubbish the next day if I drink alcohol. Whereas I used to be like, I used
Yeah,
to,
and for me, you don't even have to put me in advance. It's a firm no. So
well, there you go. And you used to be out all the time. And I mean, in my teens, I was the instigator of going out.
yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah,
going
yeah.
out was literally my life. It was all I wanted to do. And I would think about it from Monday to Friday, what we were going to
Yeah.
do on Friday night. I was obsessed with going out on Friday and Saturday nights. I didn't care that I wasn't getting any sleep. I didn't care how drunk I was getting. I never was a big drinker, but I was quite happy to drink and feel rubbish the next day. But now I'm like, no. And so I'm not. I'm not meeting the needs of some of my friends who really want to go out and have fun.
Okay.
Yeah. And therefore, I don't think that everyone should want to do all the things that I want to do as well. And so some relationships are just for having fun, or just for, just for a nice coffee, or just for being able to, I don't know, I do think these are good to have. I wonder if everyone has friendships like this.
Yeah. Do you think people could have friendships like that, or do you think it's a need to be able to have? But also, you've got to have the balanced feedback from somebody that you trust as well, I think.
Maybe some people don't want it.
Yeah, this is true.
I have a friend, and she, this was years ago, and she got like, it was an interesting situation. She'd lost her voice, and the week before she lost, like in the days before she lost her voice, her mum had told her off for the way she spoke to her children, or shouting at her children, something like that. And 3 days later she lost her voice, and I was like, well, that's obvious, isn't it? You've lost your voice because you were told off for the way you were speaking. Like, to me, that's just completely obvious, but that's very like Louise Hay, I would say, isn't it?
Yeah.
And she kind of said, Juliet, don't you think things just happen sometimes because they just happen? Like, I'm really not interested in going down that rabbit hole.
Yes, I've had that before.
And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. But she was really wanted a kind of, I would call it superficial relationship, but maybe that's a bit of a negative term, but a very surface level. Like, we just have a nice time, and we, enjoy what we're doing in the moment, but we don't try and explore.
So you don't need
things.
that. I need that level of connection, I think. I'm needy when it comes to that.
Do you think you're a needy friend?
Yeah, definitely. I think I need that level of connection, without a doubt. Otherwise, small talk I find really difficult since I've stopped drinking. I suppose that's because that's what you used when you went out drinking.
I find small talk.
I can't be bothered. How's the weather? We'll look outside.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I can't.
Yeah.
I need that level of depth in my friendships, is what I think. I don't think I can take surface level anymore.
No, I find that very difficult. I want to sit down and get interested in the dirty. Dirty.
So do you think, to conclude then, do you think that to have a decent growth in your friendship, you need different friends that meet different needs? Or do you need to work that out for yourself?
Hold on, to have growth in yourself or in a friendship?
Growth within your friendships. Do you think you need to have the growth within your friendships? Or do you think you can just have surface level friends? Or I don't know if I'm asking the right question.
No, I just don't know what you mean by the growth in the friendship. Like, for the friendship to develop, or for you to develop through friendship?
Yeah, I think, well, a bit of both, really.
I think that we need these kind of conversations to grow and develop. And I think that you can go and see a therapist and explore yourself, but I don't think it's necessarily quite the same. I think you don't want to use a friend as a therapist necessarily, but to have kind of conscious conversation, I guess, with a friend.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, is good. And I think you can be even more prescriptive with it, and actually do some like prescribed exercises and listening partnerships and all kind of things like that with friends, which can really help you grow. But some people don't want to grow, some people are just quite happy being.
On that note,
goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for helping me grow.
With friendship as our guide, together we'll grow, 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 grow. Grow together we'll grow, grow, grow.